Hey guys, John here from Bring the SEO. Today I want to talk about one of the most common sales objections that I'm sure almost all of you have experienced at some point in time, and that is it's too expensive. This of course happens when you're on a sales call, you're pitching your services and you're dealing with a prospect that, maybe you sent them a proposal, maybe you're taking them through a sales presentation and get to the end of it and they say, wow, that's just far too expensive, we can't afford it. So what can you do? Now, I've put together a couple of points here. I've got my usual list of trusty notes that I'm going to share with you. I've got maybe 5 or 6 points that I'm going to touch on that will help you deal with this situation, prevent it, and most importantly, potentially overcome this objection. So let's start with number one. Number one on my list that I've got here is targeting. Obviously, and I talk about this at length, right? Obviously, you're not going to sell high-end SEO services to low-end prospects. In other words, you're not going to sell, and this is an example that I use all the time, you're not going to be able to charge Karen, who sells candles at the weekend markets, $5,000 a month for SEO. It just will not work. So the way you're targeting and positioning in the marketplace is absolutely essential. Next, so that's number one. So next, number two, prevention. Okay, now there's nothing worse, and I'm sure most of you have been in a situation where you're speaking with a prospect, they're interested in your services, they ask for a proposal, or they say, yes, that sounds great, what are the next steps? And you spend all of this time preparing either a proposal or a presentation, you gather up all the information, maybe you spend some time doing an audit, you gather up all of this information and then you pitch to the prospect and then they say, can't afford it. Wow, that's more than we anticipated for. We don't have the budget, too expensive. That is an enormous waste of time. So the key here, and this is point 2, prevention, okay? How do we prevent that from happening? Well, you've got to implement what I call the 2-stage sales process. This is nothing new. This has been around forever. It's what I cover in the SEO Accelerator program. Prevention, the 2-stage sales process, right? So stage 1, pre-qualifying. Make sure that they're a good fit and they know, more importantly, they know what your rates are during that initial discussion, right? So you're going through a pre-qualification, call it a discovery call, a strategy session, whatever you want to call it. Triage call is another expression I've heard, but you're essentially going through that call in order to determine as to whether or not they're a good fit, and you're being completely upfront with your pricing. And for this, I usually start at, look, our entry-level prices start at, to give yourself some flexibility there in terms of, look, if they have to double down on the hours or if there's more work involved, you've got that option. So prevention is key. If you do it this way and you're upfront with your rates at the very beginning, you haven't invested any time. You're not going to waste any time doing all of this work and have the prospect say on the other side of it, we can't afford it. Quick 10, 15-minute phone call. Ask a series of questions. Are they a good fit? Okay, they're a good fit. These are our rates. Would you like to proceed? If they say yes, bingo. If they say, whoa, that's too much, well then great. Pass it in and let it go. Number 3, make sure you're selling the right thing. If you're not demonstrating value and you're just talking about vanity metrics and saying, look, we can rank you first page for 50% of your keywords, that's going to feel quite empty and meaningless for a prospect. And if you're trying to charge $5,500 a month or $3,500 a month or whatever that amount might be, and they can't make sense of what it is that you're actually offering, then they're just going to see it. They're going to see it for exactly what it is, and it's going to be an expense, not an investment. So you've got to be selling the right thing. Number 4, demonstrate results. Now, I want to back that up by saying, make sure that you're demonstrating meaningful results. Firstly, you're talking about revenue, okay? I find this really interesting in that prospects are usually, and if you think about it, this is the whole pushback, right? They're pushing back. They're saying this is too expensive. So they're talking about revenue. If you're matching that with revenue, well, then that should satisfy the concern. In other words, hey, you're going to see a positive return on investment working with us. And given that the numbers we see from working with our other clients, you should see at least a 10x return on investment. When you can word it that way, that changes everything. So make sure that you're demonstrating results and more importantly, meaningful results. You're not saying, hey, look at all of these clients that we ranked first page. Who cares? Now, I want to add to that, the results that you demonstrate will hold much more weight and be far more meaningful if they're niche specific. In other words, if you're pitching someone who is a roofing contractor and you're showing them results for a hair salon, it's probably not going to be as impactful as if you were you were demonstrating results, especially around revenue to, a roofing contractor. You're saying, hey, look at all of these other roofing businesses we've helped. That's gonna eliminate the objection around the cost completely. Now, the last thing that I want to finish up with is this. If you've covered all of these things and are still complaining, wow, this is just too expensive, it's too expensive, we can't afford it, let them go, right? Don't get yourself into a situation where you're trying to convince someone to work with you. Hey, it's really not that expensive and everything will be really great. If they continue saying we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, let them go and move on. It's that simple. All right, guys, make sure that, look, if you found this video useful, be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more, head over to bringtheseo.com. We provide business development training for SEO consultants wanting to improve their processes, increase profits, and scale to $100,000 a month or more without all the stress and overwhelm.